Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Rachel. I have my matcha here and we're gonna spill the tea today, okay? We just celebrated our 3rd wedding anniversary and I like to do these little chats every so often, talk about what it's really like, things that I've learned, things that I can improve on, and just overall give my wisdom. Not that I have so much to give, but I feel like the more information we can glean from others, the better we can be. I'm gonna talk more about my matcha later because I've been making lifestyle changes and I'm excited to get into it. So a little bit about me in case you are newer on the block. My name is Rachel. I'm 25 years old. I'm married to my high school sweetheart AJ. He's also 25. We met in junior year of high school and we got married in September of 2019. So we're celebrating 3 years. We live in South Florida. We purchased this home before we got married and then we remodeled it for 6 months. Moved in after the wedding, so we did not live together before marriage. We are both Christians, so we adhere to what the Bible says and in all aspects of our life. Oh, also we have a little cat. Her name is Vinny. We adopted her, I think like 6 months after, or 6 to 8 months after we got married, and we are currently 6 months trying to conceive to make a child. So that's a little bit about us. All right, let me see what questions you guys submitted over on my Instagram. Is it better to be friends first or be intentional in pursuing a romance from the start? So personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with either way. I think that both ways have pros and cons. If you're friends first, you have that connection and you know more about that person, I feel like. But on the other hand, I don't think that's a necessary component. AJ and I were friends, but we were friends who were interested in each other like right off the bat. A few questions about if we've ever had a rough patch in our marriage or if we had any struggles and how we worked through it. And I talked about this on my channel before, but we did have a very rough patch in college for about 2 years, 1.5 to 2 years. We were fighting all the time, just not getting along. Everything would trigger the other person. And I totally think that it's just there was a really loud bang. I totally think that it's just a cycle. In order to get out of that fighting cycle, one of you guys has to like back down and just be like, I'm not gonna get triggered or argue back or try to continue this conversation because both of our emotions are so high right now that we're not being logical. So it just takes one person to step back and you can totally break that cycle. It may take a few weeks of being like docile and not arguing back, but yeah, I think it's totally normal to have a fighting phase. Thank God we're out of it. We haven't fought like that since then, and that was many years ago. So if you're a female watching, if you're the girl in the relationship watching, you can only control yourself. So yeah, it would be ideal if both people, you know, calmed down and took a step back and looked at the bigger picture. But since you're the only one watching this video, I challenge you to do the same thing if you ever find yourself in that situation. Do you guys feel like you're totally and completely yourselves around each other? So yes and no. So I have an opinion on this. So I totally think that we should be ourselves around our partners. Obviously, we shouldn't feel like we have to hide any part of ourselves or put on a show or sleep with makeup on, for example. That being said, we don't always want to reveal every single dark thought that we have, every single inconvenience that we have. There's a limit to that, and for me personally, I do struggle with negative thoughts, so I'm not going to be myself and share every single negative thought to my husband because that's not healthy for him either. I don't want to be constantly spewing negativity. There are limits, and then again, when it comes to how I present myself, you guys see my videos. I take a shower at like 5 p.m., so after 5 p.m., I'm in my pajamas, which is just a huge oversized t-shirt, no makeup, like hair's a mess, and that's how I am every night. So I totally think that that's fine. But at the same time, now that I'm home more during the day, I do make an effort to get ready, get presentable. This was from last night. We had our anniversary dinner, so I wouldn't like curl my hair every day, but just making an effort to be presentable at least at some point during the day regularly. I think that's healthy, and I think both partners should be aiming to treat themselves well. Put effort into yourself, whether that's going to the gym, eating healthy, putting on a little bit of makeup, whatever that is for you. If you're taking care of yourself and you feel good in your own skin, that's going to radiate onto others. So yes, totally be yourself, but also try to be the best version of yourself. Don't be fake, but don't be the worst version of yourself for your spouse, because that you don't want that from them either. So give them your best in hopes that they will do the same. How do you manage the finances? Separate account or a joint account? So we do have a joint account, and I actually have a whole video, I think, on finances. Yes, I do. I remember. So I will link that video. I talk so much more about finances, but yeah, we share all of our money. Like 95% of our money is in a joint account where we both spend from, we both put money into, and that's just what works for us. It's a way in which we share financial intimacy. This is so good. How has the process of conceiving affected your marriage? So, as you know, we are 6 months in trying to conceive, and we both thought it would happen pretty quickly, so we were both kind of shocked, stunned that it didn't. It's definitely brought us closer, and I'm so excited for the day that we do conceive, because I know we're both going to be so much more happy and joyful about it than we would have been if it happened on month 1. So there's definitely something to cherish about it taking a little bit longer. Things that take more effort are more fulfilling when they're achieved. And I'm not saying that if you get pregnant on month 1 it's not fulfilling. I'm just saying, like, working hard for something and then getting it is so cool. And I probably shouldn't have said working hard, because I totally think that God is the author of life, so we can try everything, and if he doesn't want us to conceive, it's not going to happen. So I have a bunch of videos talking about my journey. I'll link those down below, of what it's really like behind the scenes trying to conceive, the emotions behind it, the ups and downs. It's hard, guys. It's really hard. Whether you've been trying for years or months, it's hard. That being said, trying to conceive can be a little bit exhausting, because like I said, you have to do it at least every other day, if not more, and that can be, it can kind of start to feel like a chore. So just finding fun ways to not make it a chore. For example, earlier on I would be like, okay, time to go, like we have to do it. And then over the months I just kind of changed my wording, and I was just like instead of saying why we have to do it, I would just like make moves to make it happen. You know what I mean? So just kind of the way we verbalize, the way we act, if we make it feel like a chore, it'll feel like a chore, versus if we make it fun, it'll feel more fun. And what's really cool is that he's really in tune with my cycle too. So he'll be like, hey, aren't you ovulating today? And I'll be like, how did you know? It's really cool to like learn information and share that with him, and him be like into it and be like, hey, did you get your period today? Like, I know it was supposed to come today. And so just having someone else to talk about it with who cares is really cool. So talking about trying to conceive, something that I've been doing is substituting my coffee with matcha. Now, I will say I'm not fully there yet. So I've definitely substituted my afternoon coffees with matchas. Like, no longer am I drinking afternoon coffee ever. But what I'm also doing is starting to substitute my morning coffee for a hot matcha. I usually prefer hot matcha in the morning and cold matcha in the afternoon if I do drink it twice a day. But this one is so good. I showed you guys this when I received it, but this is from Peak, and I do have the amazing privilege of working with them in today's video, and I'm so excited because this is the best matcha brand. It's so clean, it's ceremonial grade. So this is Peak's Sun Goddess matcha. It's organic and it's quadruple toxin screened for purity. And basically this is an antioxidant powerhouse. It's loaded with EGCG, which helps support your gut health, curb sugar cravings, and boost your metabolism. And the best part is that it promotes clear skin. It's basically an antioxidant facial for your skin. It promotes brighter, clearer skin. And if you're someone like me who is really into skincare, you guys know my mom is a dermatologist, so I am on the skin regimen. I am doing everything I can to promote healthy skin. So I'm kind of maxed out when it comes to products I can physically put on my skin. So something we often forget is that what you consume can either help or hurt your skin. So Peak Matcha is just so amazing for your skin. Another thing I love is that with coffee, I get the shakes, and I get like too overstimulated. So matcha does have a little bit of caffeine, but it's more like, it doesn't lead to a crash. It helps me feel like more balanced throughout the day and have a zen-like focus, versus coffee, I can sometimes feel shaky if I drink it on an empty stomach. So my go-to way to make this matcha in the afternoon is to put a little bit of oat milk, and it comes in these little cute packets, single serve, which is convenient. And I take my frother and I froth it up, and then I put a little bit of honey. You can put any sweetener of your choice, but I personally like organic honey, and then I froth that up again, and then I just pour it over ice. It's super easy. You can also put some cinnamon or syrups, any flavor that you love. So yeah, like I said, I just noticed a more stable energy level throughout the day, a brighter skin. So you guys can receive a free Blooming Teas Peak pouch, which comes with 20 premium samples when you spend $110 or more at peaklife.com/RachelV and get an additional 5% off with my code RachelV. Thank you so much, Peak. This is the best matcha ever. Do you ever feel moments where your husband isn't giving you enough attention? Absolutely. And I go through phases of mood swings. You guys know I wouldn't say I'm emotionally unstable, but I do have mood swings, and sometimes they can last for weeks. So sometimes I'll feel super confident and really joyful for a few months on end, and then I'll have like a really bad week, and that's normal. And during that week, I'll let my insecurities get to me, and I'll start nitpicking what he's doing, thinking that it's personal. Biggest piece of advice I can give you is that not everything is personal. Other people's actions most of the time are not because of you, in a good way and also in a bad way. Let's just give this example. If your husband comes home from work and he's tired and he's not being as talkative as you want him to be because you had a hard day and you want him to read your mind and like sense that, but at the same time he had a hard day, so giving him the grace and not taking it personally and realizing it's not that he doesn't love me, it's not that he doesn't want to hear about my bad day, it's just that he has his own things going on, and sometimes we can be selfish, and that goes both ways. And so sometimes I'm not going to realize he had a bad day and I'm just going to be focused on myself, because who's number one? Me. What am I trying to say? Sometimes we need to have a little bit of space and distance, and it's like a rubber band. It expands and expands, and when it comes back, it's amazing. So an example would be if your spouse goes away for a business trip and you miss them and you feel distant and maybe you're not talking as much. But guess what? When you come back, you're going to have so many stories to tell them. You're going to feel so energized and ready to reconnect. So yes, and it's normal. Okay, a lot of questions about intimacy. How often is a good amount to be intimate with your spouse? And you guys know we're trying to conceive, so we are currently doing it at a higher rate than probably most people. Experts recommend like every other day in your fertile window, so we've been kind of doing that. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think every couple is different, and I think what's important is that you're managing both people's expectations. So if one partner has a higher libido than the other, it's important to find a middle ground and to be willing to compromise. If someone wants to do it every single day and someone wants to do it only once a week, find a middle ground. I think the average is like twice a week. I don't really know, but I wouldn't even compare yourself to the average. I would just have a conversation with your spouse and be like, hey, are your needs being met? Do you wish we did it more or less, or what? Just like have that check-in conversation every few months to see what that person needs. A question on birth control. I think the question was like how to know to get off birth control, and then other questions about like dealing with a low libido. So I was on birth control for about 10 years. I think 9 or 10 years. I started when I was 16 and I'm 25, so about 9 years. And I only got off of it after marriage 8 months ago today, so February 2022. So I was on it before and after marriage. I will say this, it 100% affected my libido. I would not recommend going on birth control if you already struggle with a low libido and that's something you want to work on. I would not go on hormonal birth control. I would use other methods, natural family planning, which I'm planning to do an entire video on. Let's just say I felt like a new woman. I did not even realize what I was missing out on because I was on it for so long. I didn't know any different. So as soon as I came off, I wasn't really expecting to feel so much better, but I felt so much better when it came to intimacy, when it came to just mental clarity. I felt my emotions more deeply, which can be good and bad. My libido has been amazing since then. So I highly recommend, if you struggle, I would definitely consider getting off birth control. It's like the number one thing that can kill your sex drive. How does AJ deal with you when you're being negative? Great question. So as I said, I do struggle with negative thoughts, and sometimes I do spew out my negativity to others, including him. And he always corrects me by saying that is not true. So when we struggle with negative thoughts, we convince ourselves that this thought is true. This thought is me. This bad thing will happen. I'm no good. I don't deserve this. So we need somebody to come in and say that is not true. There's a leaf blower going on over there, so if you hear that, I apologize. But yes, I think it's so important to have a partner who is okay with correcting you and putting you in your place, respectfully and kindly, of course, with love. But if I was saying negative things to him and he was like, you're right, this sucks, that just doesn't make sense. So having someone to be strong enough to say, hey Rachel, like, respectfully stop saying that because it's not true and you're not helping yourself by verbalizing those thoughts. If he was being negative to me, I'll say, listen dude, like, your negativity is not helping you, it's not helping me, and it's just a lie from the devil. Like, the devil, I truly believe in spiritual warfare. If you listen to my podcast, I totally believe that the devil can come in and insert these situations, something we hear on the media, and he can insert himself into our thoughts by putting things in front of us, leading us down a bad path. So having a spouse who can recognize that that's happening and shut it down or support you through it can really change the world. One person at a time, change the world. Advice for insecurity/jealousy. I have so many beautiful friends and I struggle with him agreeing that they're beautiful. The lawn guy was right in front of the window, which I'm right in front of. That was so embarrassing. Okay, I recently found this TikToker woman who talks about relationships. I'll put her thing up here and link it down below. She is so good. She has such good advice for dealing with relationships and like how to be your best feminine self. And she said that there's two kinds of couples. There's the couple who can jokingly sit at a table and look at people and say, she's so pretty, he's so handsome, and jokingly do that and there's no problem. And then there's the couple, which I would say AJ and I fall into this other category, where we mutually agreed that we're not going to do that just because we just rather not point that out in other people. There's nothing wrong with glancing and having that thought, but the point is we're not going to like verbalize that to each other. We've just agreed that we're not going to do that. None of these is wrong. I have family members who have amazing marriages who laugh and joke and are in category number one, and that is perfectly fine. So I would maybe recognize that maybe your spouse is in this category and you have the choice to either be there with him or have that conversation and move to the other category. What's your least favorite thing about being married? I personally don't have anything. I mean, marriage is pretty great. It's very fantastic to have a partner who's always with you, stuck with you, some would say, who puts up with you, is your best friend. I don't feel limited or restrained or like I can't do something that I wanted to do and now I can't because I'm married. So I highly support marriage. It's a fantastic thing designed by God, and it's a great reflection of unconditional love. It helps me become a better person by looking at my own flaws and seeing how can I show unconditional love to this person in the same way that God shows it to me. And like I said, we didn't move in together before marriage. We didn't know any of that, and I don't think you need to test drive the car to see if it's a good fit. Like, I think if you know a person well enough and you're ready and you commit before God, you can jump right in and God will bless it and it'll be great. I think society nowadays kind of downplays the importance of marriage, and I would just argue against that. It's crucial to a functioning society. I'm not saying everybody needs to get married. I'm just saying the presence of healthy marriages with healthy families and children and lineage and grandparents and having a healthy example of good relationships is so crucial to our society. So I would be a definite big proponent of a healthy, long-lasting marriage. Were there things you didn't agree on when getting married? The only thing I can think of is like the timing of when we were gonna have kids. So we got married at 22 and I probably would have been ready to have kids a year or two after that, like at 23 or 24, and AJ was kind of more like, let's wait a little bit longer, like at 26 or 27. So we kind of met in the middle and we were like, okay, like 25 probably sounds good. So that would be like the biggest thing. But luckily for us, it wasn't a huge gap. Like if he would have said, I want to wait till I'm 35, that would have been a bigger issue. But since it was just like a few years difference and we kind of like agreed to somewhat meet in the middle, I wasn't worried about it. And then also, like, as we were approaching the age of 25, I kept bringing it up to make sure that it was okay with him. Like, I didn't want to force this if he still like wasn't ready. So I would bring it up every few months and be like, hey, just checking in, like, are we all set to like start trying at 25? So just having those conversations conversations multiple times over time, instead of like having it once before marriage and then 3 years later you're like, all right, it's time to make a baby, and he's like, wait, what? Like maybe he forgot, or maybe he thought that it would be a longer conversation. So just being open to having those conversations and bringing it up frequently, especially if it's something that you're really passionate about. Will I check my husband's phone? A couple questions on like how open are we with our phones? That's a funny question because when we first started dating, we were very, I don't know, like insecure. So we would like check each other's phones all the time, and it was mutual. Like we would both be so like, I guess we were really in love and scared that maybe like he didn't love me, she doesn't love me, whatever. So we would check each other's phones all the time and there'd be nothing there. So over time we just stopped because I think it was a maturity thing. We were together really young. So I have no desire to check his phone now. Like, what you can't see can't hurt you. I'm just kidding. No, but my face is like set up on his phone, so I can, like, if I pick up his phone, it'll unlock. And I think that's a good thing. Like, that's a healthy thing to have, just to know that you can if you want to. But if your partner's giving you a reason to feel like you need to check their phone, then it's either one of two things. It's either a you problem, like you're insecure and you need to grow out of that, or it's a him problem and he's doing something that's making you feel like something's wrong. So kind of sit down and try to get to the bottom of, why am I feeling this? Is it because of my insecurities, maybe my past relationships? Maybe go to therapy and try to figure it out, because if you go into a marriage with that mindset, you may regret it. Like, you may be marrying someone who you shouldn't be marrying, but I don't know, because I don't know if it's a you thing or a him thing. Have you dealt with porn at all in your marriage? Absolutely not. And I talked about that in my last wife chat video. I will have that linked for you as well. I talked a lot about that in that video, so you can go ahead and watch that. But no, I'm a hard no against that. We both are. We're convicted about it. It's something we believe to our core. It's damaging to relationships. It's damaging to boys and girls, because girls do struggle with it as well. I would say do everything in your power to pray against that. It's not helping anybody. And I also listened to this really good podcast it's on the Spillover, about this ex-porn star who came to God after his career, and he just talked about how damaging it was to him as the actor and how society consumes that as an object. But those are people behind the screen, and those are people who are suffering. It's just bad for everybody involved, and hearing that from him, like as the person who was in it, is so powerful. So once again, I'll link all of these resources down below. Biggest piece of advice for someone who wants to get married but is dating at the moment. Here we go. List out all of the things that you don't like about your partner. And then you have to decide, are any of these deal breakers for me? If yes, bye. If no, am I okay with them not changing for the rest of their life? Let's say your boyfriend is always late, and this is not the case with AJ. He's actually very punctual, which is very good, because so am I. But let's say you're a punctual person and your or your boyfriend is always late. You need to decide, because that's a very difficult thing to change in somebody. Am I okay with him potentially being late to almost all events for the rest of my life? And you need to be honest with yourself. You need to be honest. If it's a deal breaker, it's a deal breaker. If it's not, you need to swallow it at the altar. Okay? At the altar, you swallow it, because you knew going in that this is who he is. You decided it's not a deal breaker. Sure, you can help him, you can remind him, time to go. But again, if you're going to be frustrated daily with this guy about this, then why? You know what I mean? Swallow it at the altar. Are you scared that your husband doesn't find you attractive anymore? Let's close on this one, because there's so many layers to this. Feeling distant. He doesn't love me anymore. He doesn't talk to me like he used to. He doesn't say I'm pretty like he used to. All of this is in the same sphere of becoming a little bit more distant or aging in your relationship, because all of this is normal. So the question is, what do we as wives do about it? I've evolved in this over the past 3 years. The biggest thing that I've learned in marriage is that I, as the woman, have so much control over the tone, the vibe, if you will, of our marriage. People say, science says, women tend to be more in tune with our emotions, with the vibes. You guys know what I'm saying. We can either lean into our masculine or our feminine energy. A masculine energy says, I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna plan our dinner reservation. I'm gonna book it. He hasn't booked it yet, whatever. He didn't put up my painting. I'm gonna put it up myself. Whatever the case may be. be taking charge of the situation. Masculine energy gives, it provides. It goes from here to there. Feminine energy receives, it takes what the masculine gives. So a lot of times in a marriage, the woman will feel like she's the mother of the boy, the man, and that's because she stepped into her masculine. She stepped into a motherly role and she's feeling resentful. She cooks, she cleans, she does everything. She plans the vacation, she plans the dinner, she does XYZ, she fixes her own tires, she changes her own oil. That's masculine. The feminine doesn't do any of those things. The feminine just receives what the masculine gives, and it's so hard. It's so hard to be in your feminine. It's really hard. Even if your man is amazing, goes above and beyond. Women, we want to rule over our husbands. That's natural. We want to be in charge. We want to be the boss. At no fault of the man, we are still trying to be above him and be in control. A lot of times that doesn't work. So I have challenged myself, and I am not perfect, okay? Let him lead. Let him make decisions, and just be open and receiving, and be fun and be thankful and grateful and express gratitude for everything that he does. And you'll see in the moments where I've done that successfully, because it's not like this. You don't improve and just keep improving. You have good moments and bad moments. So in the moments where I've been really good at that, everything was amazing, like amazing. And then in the moments where I step back into my masculine, things just get worse. I recommend this book. I read it, changed the way I look at marriage completely. You need to read this. Even if you're not married yet, definitely read this book, because it really challenged me to think differently and to be more respectful. I have a really big problem with disrespect because I think I'm better. I think I'm smarter. That's just ego. And the number one thing that men need in a relationship is respect. Women need love, men need respect. So if we're being disrespectful, it's going to be toxic. When you're in the car driving and he's making a left turn, but you think there's a shortcut, he should go the right way, just don't say it. Just stop talking. Stop micromanaging. Is getting there 30 seconds faster worth sacrificing the intimacy of him thinking you respect him? Is it? I don't think so. All right, guys, we will finish it off there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and got something out of this video. I love making these videos. If you want to see more of this kind of content, let me know in the comments. I also have an Instagram and a podcast where I talk more about marriage. I have podcasts with my husband, and I really appreciate your support. Don't forget to check out Peak Matcha. Everything will be linked. Discount is awesome, and I will see you guys in my next video.